Good evening, dear dreamers. Tonight, let the soft embrace of the night guide you into a world of wonder and serenity. Close your eyes and imagine a village resting on the edge of an ancient forest, where the trees hum with forgotten songs, and the air carries whispers older than time. Take a deep breath and let the soft rhythm of this tale carry you into dreams filled with magic and mystery. Together, we will journey to a place where the echoes of the past linger and the songs of the forest await a heart willing to listen. Let us begin. It was the kind of night that spoke only in murmurs. Shadows deepened under a pale silver moon, casting a shimmering veil over the forest as if draped in a half-forgotten dream. Beneath this night, in a village on the forest's edge, lived a girl named Leora. She was a quiet soul, unremarkable to most, but with eyes that seemed to hold the stars. All her life, Leora had heard tales of the forest, a forest that was no mere woodland, but something older, stranger, its mysteries stretching back further than memory. Leora had been warned, as all village children were, that the forest held dangers for the curious. Yet, even as a child, she had felt its pull, as though the trees themselves whispered her name when the wind was soft and the night was long. Now she was no longer a child, and the whispers had only grown louder, carrying tales she could almost understand. It was on a night like this, with the sky draped in silken clouds and a wind carrying the faintest hum, that Leora first heard it, a sound that pierced the silence like a faint echo of a song. It was a single note, stretched thin, trembling with something both ancient and pure. She stopped, every sense prickling as the hum deepened, wrapping around her like an invitation. Without knowing why, she began to walk. Her feet were bare, her steps light, and she moved as if in a trance, following the sound as it called her deeper into the forest. The trees rose tall and silent around her, their branches intertwining like the knotted fingers of an old, secretive hand. The moonlight caught on something in the distance, a glimmer, a flash like glass. But no, this was not glass, nor was it ordinary light. The further she went, the more the sound filled her, a low hum that sank into her very bones, turning her skin to goose flesh. She sensed, rather than saw, that the trees themselves were not made of wood, but of something else entirely. Their trunks seemed to shimmer, translucent in places, catching and holding the light like prisms. Yet they did not seem to belong to this world. They stood silent and knowing, as if watching her with eyes long unseen. Leora's heart quickened, her breath coming shallow and quick as she moved closer to the grove she had stumbled upon. These were not trees of wood or bark, but trees made of crystal, each branch twisting in intricate, delicate patterns, as if formed by the hands of an artist who had never known the limits of time. She reached out instinctively, feeling drawn to the nearest trunk, but her fingers froze before they touched it. A chill passed through her, and she heard, faintly, what she thought was a whisper. No, not a whisper, a song, faint, distant, like a voice calling from another time, another place. It was as if the tree itself was alive, holding within it a memory, a melody, a piece of something lost to all but those willing to hear it. Leora. The sound was so soft, she wasn't sure if she had imagined it. Her heart thundered, and she knew with a certainty that seemed to come from outside herself that she was not alone in this place. The air thickened around her, charged with something unseen, something watching. She sensed movement just beyond her sight, something shifting in the dark spaces between the crystal trunks, something that was neither animal nor human, but something older. And then, as quickly as it had come, the feeling passed, leaving her standing in a grove that was silent once more. The hum was gone, the trees still, yet the memory of it lingered, filling her with an ache she couldn't explain. For the first time in her life, Leora felt as if she had crossed a threshold, as if she had stepped into a world that existed parallel to her own, but only ever half revealed. She glanced back the way she had come, half expecting to see the familiar lights of her village, but they were lost to her now. All around her, the forest stretched, its crystalline trees glimmering faintly as if in anticipation. She knew, without being told, that there was no turning back, no retreating into the safety of her old life. The whisper of the woods had called her, and she had answered. And so, with a heart trembling between fear and wonder, Leora took another step forward, deeper into the unknown. The whispering forest closed around her, the trees silent, watching, waiting for her to unravel the mysteries hidden within their crystalline limbs. She was no longer merely Leora of the village, but something else entirely, a seeker in a kingdom of secrets. The forest deepened around Leora, pressing close and dark, yet she moved with a strange certainty. There was no clear path, yet her feet found their way. It was as if the forest itself guided her, the trees bending ever so slightly, their glistening branches beckoning her forward. The hum had faded into silence, yet its memory lingered, pulling her along an invisible thread woven with shadows and light. With each step, the air grew sharper, clearer, until it felt like breathing the very essence of starlight. She passed through a thin veil of mist, and as she emerged, her breath caught. Before her lay a grove unlike anything she had ever seen. A vast clearing surrounded by crystal trees, their branches catching the moonlight and fracturing it into 1,000 rainbows that danced across the ground like specters of color. Leora felt as though she had stepped into a dream, a place both achingly beautiful and impossible, a land untouched by time as she took a few hesitant steps forward, her bare feet cold on the ground, and gazed up at the trees. They stood tall and silent, their trunks translucent and faintly blue, like the frozen rivers she had seen in winter, but with a warmth that pulsed just beneath the surface. With trembling hands, she reached out toward the nearest tree. Its branches were slender and delicate, each leaf an intricate pattern of crystal veins, so fine they seemed woven from moonlight itself. She brushed her fingers against a single leaf, and at once the tree responded. A low, resonant note filled the air, echoing through the grove with a sound that was neither voice nor instrument, yet somehow both. The note hung in the air, trembling, before fading slowly, leaving a hollow silence that ached to be filled. Leora pulled her hand back, her heart pounding. The tree had sung. She looked around, eyes wide, realizing that each tree held a different melody, a unique voice, as if they were individuals, each holding its own story, its own memory. She moved to another tree, smaller, but with branches reaching toward the sky in elegant arcs, and touched it. Another note sounded, softer, gentler, a melody that spoke of longing and loss, a song of ages past, sung in a language of silence and sound. Slowly, she began to understand. These trees were keepers of wisdom, each song an echo of a life lived, a moment remembered. They held within them the voices of the past, secrets whispered from generation to generation, hidden here in this grove beyond time's reach. As she moved from tree to tree, the melodies blended, weaving together like threads of a vast tapestry. Some songs were joyful, others mournful. Some were tales of courage, others of sorrow. She could not understand the words, yet the emotions reached her, sinking into her heart like rain into thirsty soil. She felt each note as if it were her own memory, her own sorrow, her own joy. Then a voice unlike any she had ever heard, soft but carrying with it the weight of centuries, spoke from somewhere deep within the grove. It was neither loud nor quiet, but a presence that filled the air, wrapping around her like a cloak woven of mist and moonlight. "Why have you come, child?" it asked. Leora's voice trembled, her words barely a whisper. I don't know," she said. "I was drawn here by the song. I couldn't help myself." The voice was silent for a moment, as if considering her answer. "Many have heard the song," it replied, "but few have followed. This is a place of memory, a kingdom hidden from those who would use its knowledge without understanding its weight. Do you understand what you seek? I don't, she admitted, her voice barely louder than a breath. But I want to. The voice sighed, a sound like wind rustling through crystal leaves. And for a moment, Leora thought she saw a shadow, a figure standing among the trees, watching her with eyes that held the wisdom of ages. She blinked, and the figure was gone. Yet the sense of being seen, of being understood, lingered. You may touch the trees, the voice said, but know this. Each song carries a piece of truth, and truth is both light and burden. Listen carefully, for once heard, their songs will become a part of you. With that, the voice faded, leaving Leora alone in the grove. She stood, heart pounding, and turned to face the nearest tree. This time, she did not hesitate. She placed her hands on its cool, smooth trunk, and as the melody filled the air, she listened, truly listened, letting the notes sink into her soul, feeling them weave themselves into the very fabric of her being. The trees sang, and she listened, her heart opening to the stories they held. The glimmer of crystal surrounded her, a kingdom of light and song hidden within a world of silence. And in that moment, she understood that her life would never be the same again. She was no longer merely a girl from the village, but a keeper of songs, a seeker in the secret kingdom of crystal trees. Leora moved through the grove with a reverence she had never known. The trees stood silent and tall, their crystalline branches like the arms of guardians, keeping watch over something precious and old. As she touched each tree, a different melody unfurled, and with each melody came an image, a memory, a glimpse into lives long past. These were not mere songs, they were voices, each one distinct, speaking of things lost to time. Some trees sang of peace, of golden fields rippling under the sun, of laughter that echoed like bells over mountain lakes. Others held darker tales, songs of storm and sorrow, of wars fought in distant lands, battles where warriors clashed beneath skies thick with smoke and fire. These voices stirred within her, a chorus of emotions, layering themselves like leaves fallen over seasons, until Leora felt as if her heart was filled with memories that were both hers and not hers. She moved slowly, feeling the weight of each song settle into her bones, reshaping her from the inside out. One tree in particular drew her, its branches slender but reaching high, as if grasping for the heavens themselves. She placed her hand upon its trunk, and a low, haunting melody vibrated through her fingers. A vision followed, faint and misty, like a scene glimpsed through water. She saw a woman, draped in silver robes, standing on a hill under a blood-red sky. The woman's hands were lifted, her eyes closed. her lips moving in a silent plea. Behind her, a gathering of people knelt in a circle, their heads bowed, faces etched with fear and hope. The melody shifted, growing mournful, and Leora felt a pang of sorrow that was not her own, a loss that echoed through the ages. The vision faded, leaving only the song, lingering in her heart like an unanswered question. She tried to pull her hand away, but the melody clung to her, as if the tree itself was reluctant to let go. She could feel its need, its yearning to be understood. And in that moment, she realized the true purpose of this grove. These trees were more than guardians. They were keepers of a knowledge too vast for words, too precious to be lost. Each tree held within it the spirit of someone who had lived, someone who had once walked this land with dreams and fears, with loves and losses. This grove was a place where the forgotten were remembered, where their stories could sing into eternity. As she moved away from the tree, the sound of footsteps reached her ears. Light, careful, as if someone was treading the forest floor with the same caution she had. She froze, her heart leaping, and looked around. Through the mist, a figure appeared, cloaked in shadow and draped in shimmering robes that seemed to blend with the forest itself. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face as ancient as the trees, with eyes dark as onyx and a gaze that held the weight of countless lifetimes. This was the guardian of the grove, the one whose presence she had felt but never seen. "You have listened well," the guardian said, voice like the rustling of leaves, deep and layered with hidden echoes. Few hear the songs of the trees and understand their meaning. Leora swallowed, feeling the weight of those eyes upon her, both kind and unfathomable. Why are these songs here?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The guardian tilted its head, a faint smile touching its lips. "This grove is a sanctuary, a place where memories are woven into the fabric of existence. These trees were born of those who lived with a wisdom beyond their years, those who sought to preserve what was dear to them, knowing that one day all else would fade." Leora's heart stirred with wonder and sorrow. "Then these trees are like ghosts?" "Not ghosts," the guardian corrected gently, "but echoes. Each song is a fragment of a life, a piece of truth held within crystal and silence. They are here for those who are willing to listen, to carry their stories into the world beyond." A sudden realization struck her. Am I meant to take these songs with me?" The guardian's gaze softened. "That depends on you, child. Each song is a gift, a shard of wisdom offered freely. But to carry such wisdom is to bear a burden. Do you believe yourself worthy?" Leora looked down, her hands trembling. She felt the weight of the voices within her, their melodies echoing in her mind, filling her heart with their beauty and their grief. She did not feel worthy. She was only a girl, a wanderer, someone who had stumbled upon this place by chance. Yet she felt the pull of the songs, the call to remember, to honor those who had come before. She lifted her gaze to the guardian, determination settling within her. I may not be worthy, but I will try. I want to honor their stories. I want to carry their songs. The guardian nodded, approval glinting faintly in its dark eyes. Then listen, Leora. Listen well, for the trees have much to teach. They will show you truths that lie hidden, wisdom that cannot be spoken, but only felt. The figure began to fade, merging once more with the shadows, but its voice lingered, a final whisper that wrapped around her like the last notes of a song. You are now a keeper of the grove, Leora. May you find strength in the voices of the trees. And then she was alone again, standing amid the silent, shimmering grove. She closed her eyes, breathing in the cold, crystal-scented air, and listened as the songs rose once more, filling her heart with their ancient wisdom, binding her forever to the hidden kingdom of crystal trees. The grove was silent, yet within that silence lay a depth, a fullness that pressed against Leora's senses, dense with mysteries and unseen eyes. She felt watched as if the trees themselves, with their intricate crystal limbs, bent closer to observe her, to weigh her heart and spirit. It was as if the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting to see what she would do. A faint stirring brushed her skin, a cool, almost spectral wind that twisted through the grove without disturbing a single leaf. Leora shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. The air felt charged, alive with something more than just song. And then, there, at the edge of her vision, she caught sight of a figure. The guardian had returned, but now it was more than a shadow. It was fully formed, a being cloaked in robes woven of twilight and mist, as though the fabric itself held the dim light of fading stars. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, yet Leora could feel its gaze upon her, heavy and knowing. The branches of the trees seemed to part before the guardian as it stepped forward, each footfall silent, reverent. You have heard their songs, the guardian intoned, its voice rich and deep, laced with an otherworldly resonance that sent a tremor through her. Yet there is more to understand, more to see. Leora swallowed, her heart pounding as she nodded. I want to know more. I feel as if I'm meant to be here, as if the trees called me. The guardian tilted its head, its hood shifting to reveal eyes like twin abysses, dark yet shining with an inner light that seemed to stretch beyond time itself. They did. For only those who truly listen can find the path to this place. And only those who are willing to carry the burden of knowledge may enter the heart of the kingdom." The words hung in the air, and as they did, the grove around her began to change. The trees seemed to draw closer, their branches intertwining, forming arches and pathway that had not been there before. Light filtered through the crystalline leaves, casting faint, prismatic shadows that danced meow along the ground. The guardian extended a hand, a gesture as ancient as the forest itself, and nodded. "Come, child, let me show you what lies at the heart of our kingdom." With a mixture of fear and wonder, Leora took the guardian's hand. It was cold, almost as if made of stone, yet within that coldness lay a strange warmth, a comfort that steadied her. They walked together through the grove, deeper into the heart of the crystal forest, where the light grew softer, dimmer, as if even the moon dared not intrude too boldly. The path wound through a dense gathering of trees, their crystalline forms growing more intricate, each leaf like a small work of art. As they walked, the trees began to hum, a low, unified melody, deep and resonant, vibrating through the air like a heartbeat. It was a sound both ancient and eternal, echoing through her, stirring something deep within her soul. They emerged into a clearing, and there, standing tall and solitary, was the largest tree Leora had yet seen. Its trunk was wide and deeply veined with lines of shimmering silver, its branches spreading far and wide, each one heavy with crystal leaves that seemed to glow from within. The entire tree pulsed faintly, as if alive, its glow breathing in rhythm with the forest's song. The guardian released her hand and gestured to the tree. "This is the heart tree, the first of its kind, and the source of all wisdom held within this kingdom. Its roots touch the memories of every being who has ever sought to protect the secrets of the forest. It holds the oldest song, the first song, the song that remembers all." Leora felt her breath catch. She stepped forward, drawn to the heart tree as if by an invisible cord. Each step felt heavier, as though the ground itself was charged with the memories of countless lives, of centuries woven into the earth and air. She could feel the weight of it, the depth, a history that was both beautiful and solemn, tinged with an ancient sadness. She reached out to touch the trunk, her fingers brushing the smooth, cool crystal, and at once, a flood of images burst into her mind. She saw a time when the world was young, when beings walked the earth who understood the songs of nature, who spoke with the trees and rivers, who lived in harmony with all things. She saw them gather here, around the heart tree, singing their wisdom into its branches, entrusting their knowledge to its roots. Then she saw darkness, a time when this harmony had been broken, when greed and fire had twisted the hearts of humankind, and the songs of the trees had faded. their voices silenced by iron and fire. The heart tree had endured, standing silently as the world changed, waiting, watching, holding its knowledge for those who would one day seek it out. Tears pricked her eyes, and she withdrew her hand, feeling the weight of the centuries, the sadness of lives lost, of wisdom forgotten. She looked back at the guardian, her voice trembling. Why? Why was this knowledge hidden away? The guardian's gaze was somber. Not hidden, child, protected. For only those who seek not for power, but for understanding, may hear the songs of the trees. Only those who listen with an open heart may carry the wisdom forward. Leora nodded, the weight of the heart tree's memory settling within her. She felt changed, as if the forest itself had woven its roots around her soul, binding her to its secrets, to its past. She was no longer merely Leora. She was a part of something vast, something timeless. The guardian placed a hand on her shoulder, a gentle pressure that felt like both a comfort and a responsibility. You are now bound to this kingdom, Leora. The wisdom you have received is a gift, but also a task. Go forth and let the world remember what it has forgotten. Be the voice of the trees, the keeper of their song. And as the guardian's words settled within her, the heart tree hummed once more, a deep, reverent note that echoed through the grove, a promise, a blessing, a call to carry forward what had been entrusted to her. The heart tree's song lingered in Leora's mind, resonating like an echo in an empty hall, filling every corner of her being with its ancient melody. She felt as if the music of the forest had imprinted itself onto her soul, leaving an indelible mark, a calling that she could neither fully grasp nor ignore. She was no longer a mere listener. She was part of the song now, a vessel for the wisdom hidden in the crystalline kingdom. The guardian watched her, its dark, knowing eyes softened by something that could have been pride or sadness. Perhaps both. It inclined its head, and for a moment, Leora felt a vast silent exchange pass between them, a recognition, an understanding that she had become a keeper of the crystal songs, bound to carry forward the knowledge hidden in the ancient trees. The time has come, Leora, the guardian murmured. The forest will always hold its secrets, but you are now their voice beyond these trees. Step forward and let the song flow through you. Leora nodded, her heart a blend of awe and trepidation. She didn't know how to carry the weight of what she had been given, nor how to share the wisdom woven into the grove's melodies. But she felt the guardian's words settle within her, steadying her resolve. She took a deep breath, turning once more to face the heart tree. Its glow pulsed softly, as if acknowledging her readiness. Its light a gentle promise, a reminder that the forest's songs would live on through her. Slowly, she lifted her hands, closing her eyes, and let the melodies she had gathered rise within her. At first, there was silence, only the rustle of leaves and the faint, unearthly hum that seemed to vibrate through the grove. Then, one by one, the songs of the crystal trees stirred in her memory, the tale of peace, the dirge of loss, the song of courage. Each note, each emotion blended and rose, a symphony of lives long past, a hymn to the world that had been and could be again. As the song escaped her lips, she felt herself merge with the forest, her voice a thread in the tapestry of their history. She became the woman in silver robes, her face turned to the blood-red sky. She became the warriors in battle, their shouts echoing through the valleys. She became the children laughing in the golden fields, the lovers parting under a dimming sun, each life and each memory flowing through her as though they were her own. She was no longer merely Leora, but every soul the trees had ever held. Her voice carried into the night, filling the grove and spilling beyond, seeping through the forest like mist, finding its way into the world beyond. She endang of the wisdom of balance, of the harmony between all living things, of a truth that was neither complex nor hidden but simple, waiting to be remembered. The guardian watched, silent and still, as her voice softened, her song drawing to a close, leaving only the echoes dancing through the branches, caught within the crystalline leaves like dew. Leora opened her eyes, feeling the stillness settle around her, a peace deeper than she had ever known. She had given the forest her voice, and in return, it had given her purpose. The guardian stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. You are ready, Laura. Carry this wisdom with you. Let it guide you, and through you, let it guide others. The song will never truly leave you. It will be your companion, your light. Leora nodded, her heart calm, yet brimming with something vast and uncontainable. She felt as if the forest itself had taken root within her, each melody a seed waiting to grow, each memory a beacon for those who had forgotten their connection to the land, to each other. Will I be able to return? She asked, her voice soft, barely more than a breath. The guardian's eyes gleamed with a faint, enigmatic light. This grove is part of you now. As long as you remember its song, you will carry it within you. And should you wish to return, the forest will know. With one last look at the heart tree, Leora turned and began to walk back through the grove, the path opening before her, the crystal branches parting to let her pass. The trees hummed softly as she walked, their melodies quiet and reverent, like a farewell. She stepped out of the grove, the trees fading behind her, their crystalline glow blending with the shadows, until they were little more than a glimmering memory in the distance. The mist thinned as she neared the edge of the forest, and gradually the village lights became visible, distant yet familiar, a reminder of the life she had once known. But Leora knew she would never return to that life unchanged. She was no longer just Leora of the village. She was a keeper of the crystal songs, a voice for the hidden wisdom, a thread in the tapestry of the forest's ancient tales. As she left the trees behind, she could still hear the faint echo of the heart tree's Zammo oral song within her, a steady pulse, a promise. The melody would guide her, just as it had led her here, reminding her of the balance, the harmony, the truth waiting to be shared. She stepped back into the world beyond the forest, her heart filled with a quiet strength, and knew that the hidden kingdom of crystal trees would live on, not in solitude, but through her, through each step she took, each word she spoke, each song she shared. The wisdom of the forest would flow like a river, winding through time and memory, a gentle reminder to all who listened that they too were part of the song.